Freedom, which hates Cuba, has lost its most loyal friend and protector. This is Maduro. He is gone, and with him the oil and narco dollars are gone too. Cuba has nowhere else to get money from. What does Cuba need money for? They need money for food, for medicine, for razors to shave, for toasters, for refrigerators. In other words, for everything. They need money for everything because they don't produce anything themselves. They don't produce anything. They're good guys, of course, but the system is set up in such a way that they can't bring anything in. So there's enough for party members, especially those of higher rank. Please, don't worry about them. But there's nothing left for anyone else. Cuba, as they say, used to be just a little bit yes, but now it's one big yes. But to the Yankees say yes.
President Trump says, not in America's backyard. The Wall Street Journal reports that the president and his team are working behind the scenes to overthrow Cuba's communist regime by the end of the year. Sources say the administration is actively looking for insiders in the Cuban government who are willing to help make a deal. The White House believes that now is the perfect moment. Cuba's economy is on the verge of collapse. There's a shortage of food and fuel, constant power outages, and the government looks more fragile than ever.
There's no gasoline, no kerosene, no electricity, so what is there?
I lived in North Miami Beach, Florida, when I was young, and my family was very close with Cubans who came from Cuba and told us stories like that. Stories you just wouldn't believe. And I can't believe it's already the 26th year now. And just 90 miles south of Key West, they're still in the same situation they've been in 10, 20, 30, even 40 years ago. I'm just sickened by the fact that some politicians from a certain side have managed to idealize Cuba, the Castro regime, and their so-called health care, while they were destroying their own citizens there, depriving them of any hope. And this situation continues to this day. I was waiting for someone to do something. It's so close to success. It's a small island. Other islands have thrived thanks to great tourism. By the way, from what I've heard, I haven't been there. They have great beaches and all that. You know, all those other places thrived in the Bahamas and beyond, and now it's time for something to be done for the people of Cuba. I can't believe we're still in the same situation after all these years. I don't get why, even though I'm not an interventionist, nothing has been done just 90 miles south.
The logic is certainly strange, like if you're 90 miles. Well, how much is that anyway? Well, it's about 140 kilometers from our shore, so we should and can enter the sovereign territory of the state of Cuba. But if it's, say, 1,900 miles, then we can't. Cuba isn't actually doing anything bad to us. They're just quietly sitting there and getting really nervous because of us. And they've turned their own citizens, not ours, into slaves. But that's not our business. There are plenty of countries where the residents have been turned into slaves. Well, we can't fly around the world and deal with all of that, but the fact that it's right next to us just won't let us rest. And it looks like Cuba, as they say, got caught up in the fallout because of Trump's New World Order. Cuba is in our backyard, as Donald J. explained to us, and we are in our own backyard. We don't want any Russians, Chinese, socialists, communists, or fascists there. Well, basically, we don't want anyone who will interfere with us, threaten us in any way, or potentially work for our enemies, as we see it. We're sure that in about 5 years, there will probably be a serious clash which could escalate into a major war.
All right, when you say well, how could something like that even happen? I think it goes back to Gary's point about interference. You probably need to do something really big if you want to drive the communists out of Cuba. Even if it's a good thing, doing something big is always a big deal.
And that's why they've survived for so long, because no one else wanted to take responsibility and risk to do it. In your introduction, Brian, when you discussed the economic problems and the crisis people are facing in Cuba, and in your analysis of how long they've lived under a repressive regime, you could, to some extent, swap the words Cuba and Iran. And both of these situations are very, very similar. In one case, you're dealing with communism. In the other case, you're dealing with militant religious rule. But these are two situations that I think the president is watching closely right now. After he dealt with Venezuela, after he went to Davos and settled the situation with Greenland, he created his own peace council. These are the next two things on the agenda. And yes, unfortunately, in both of these situations, you'll have to do something very, very big.
So Venezuela, Cuba, Iran, and you'll have to do something, say the journalists. So the focus is very, very big. What exactly is this very, very big invasion? What else could be force? Well, it's not politics or negotiations for the journalists, you see. They didn't have any questions about what we are going to do. They only ask how we are going to do it and when we are going to do it.
The question is when he will do it, how he will do it, but it will become part of his legacy, even if you don't see what the specific benefits of it are. Today, you will read about this president in history and see that he changed the global stage. In the way things are done, how countries interact with each other, what power structures we have, and this will have an indelible influence for hundreds of years.
DAG and history textbooks are written well after the midterm elections.
That is, America, or at least a part of Americans, are ready to get rid of those they consider bad by military means. Well, Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela, there are also moderately bad ones. Those are the very bad ones. And then there are moderately bad ones like Honduras, El Salvador. They have too much sympathy for Russia, or Colombia, Brazil, too much sympathy for China. If they don't, so to speak, kiss the ring on the left hand of our president, then they will also move into the camp of the very bad ones. And then, I don't even know, are we going to attack them too? But still, those who are within our zone, within 2,000 miles of the United States borders, well, Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela, I think we will definitely clean them out. They haven't said anything about Nicaragua yet, but wait, I think it's just a matter of time. The Caribbean countries, all within this zone, 2,000 miles. But they love us as a source of tourism and prosperity. A lot of Americans move to places like Barbados, the Bahamas, Antigua, Trinidad, or Martinique when they retire. So basically, these islanders, they're quiet, grateful, we bring in a lot of money, they have nothing else to earn from. Suddenly, many retirees and tourists began going there. Whether this influx is good or bad is something our descendants will decide. But now the Trump administration has decided to seriously clear the Western Hemisphere, especially everything around the United States borders, from the influence of potential enemies and from those who want to build a society of social leveling. Besides, well, the communo-fascists, we want to send the communo-fascists, as they used to say in the Soviet Union, to the dustbin of history, and also the United Nations to the dustbin. Perhaps very soon we will say the same to the United Nations. Get out of New York. And let me add, thieves and crooks will take your place. Well, something like the Peace Council under the leadership of the United States of America a few days ago. After all, no one has heard about this Peace Council yet. People have heard of it. Yes, they've heard of it. Well, that phrase existed, but it referred to the management of gas restoration, something minor, some local event. But everything has changed.
Well, this is really a very exciting day. It took a long time to prepare, and many countries have just received their notifications. And everyone wants to be a part of this, and we will work with many others, including the United Nations. But I want to thank all of you for being here. Yesterday, we had an incredibly successful visit with many of the world's leading business leaders, the best, the biggest.
We will also work with the United Nations, said Trump. So everyone wants, as he claims, to be part of this Council of Peace. This is all taking place in Davos, gentlemen, where globalists recently dominated.
The most successful and foreign heads of state And now we have one of the most important meetings of all time, the official formation of the so-called Council of Peace, subtitles.
After that, Trump said that Rube, Vitkov, and Kushner did a lot for this plan, for peace in general on the planet, but did not mention the vice president. As for Vance, after Vance spoke favorably several times about Tucker Carlson, who went from being a blogger to simply becoming the country's leading anti-Semite, well, maybe he shares this position of leadership with Catty Sovin. Vance's face vanished from Trump photo reports and his name is no longer mentioned. He's neither disgraced nor in favor.
I want to thank Secretary of State Mark Rubio, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and Jared Kushner for their outstanding work. I mean, they did an amazing job. We have peace in the Middle East. Nobody believed it was possible. We ended 8 wars. I think another such case will happen very soon. You know, the one I thought would be easy turned out to be probably the most difficult. Last month, 29,000 people died, mostly soldiers.
In Ukraine, as well as in Russia. Just imagine that number, 29,000, 27,000 the month before that, and 26,000 the month before that. It's just terribly unbearable.
But we have meetings, and we believe that we are making significant progress. Thanks to Secretaries Scott Bessel, Govard Latnick, Chris Raitt, and United States Trade Representative Jamieson Greer for their incredible work. Ambassador Callista Gingrich, who is here and doing a fantastic, truly fantastic job. Thank you, Callista, and many other members of my administration who are so dedicated to peace.
They also focus on success. There's absolutely no crown at all. So who exactly is this Council for World Peace organized by Trump? How will it be different from the League of Nations, the United Nations, and all the other organizations? By the way, the United States left all 63 of them without saying goodbye.
As I said yesterday, the United States economy is thriving with low inflation and more growth ahead.
In the last 3 months, it was 1 or 2%, and we inherited the worst inflation in our country's history. And right now we have economic growth of 5 or rather 4%. It seems I think that number could double or triple if we do the right things and if we change our mindset. So if you announce good numbers, the markets go up instead of if you announce good numbers, the market goes down. People adjust interest rates up or down based on conditions. When America thrives, the world benefits. And we secured commitments for more than $18 trillion in new investments coming into our country. This record far exceeds the previous one by a huge margin. No country in history has ever come close to this number. We reduced our trade deficit by as much as 77%, and that's in just 1 year. Yesterday marked exactly 1 year, and we signed these historic trade agreements with countries from all over the world. Today, the world is richer, safer, and more peaceful than a year ago. We extinguished all those fires. Many people didn't even know, including myself, that some of these wars were still going on at all, and some of them were. In one case, 32 years, another 35, and another 37. We were glad to stop the war that broke out between India and Pakistan, 2 nuclear powers. And I was very flattered when the Prime Minister of Pakistan said that President Trump saved 10, maybe even 20 million lives by preventing a catastrophe right before terrible events were about to happen. As president, I ended those 8 wars in 9 months, including Cambodia and Thailand. And by the way, many of the leaders here are from Kosovo and Serbia, the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda, Pakistan and India, Israel and Iran, Egypt and Ethiopia. We're working on this right now. Yesterday, I met with a very good general and an outstanding leader of Egypt. We're working on the dam that was built and is preventing the Nile River from getting water. It was quite a difficult situation, but we'll handle it. I had almost settled this during my first term, and then we had a rigged election. I was out of commission for a while, but I'm back. We'll handle it, though it's a complicated situation. The dam was built, but the water doesn't reach the Nile. When I think of Egypt, I think of the Nile, but I think of the Nile with water. Armenia and Azerbaijan, many of these leaders have become my friends. They've become my friends. They're here. And of course, the war in Gaza. We have small fires that we will put out, but they're small. They used to be gigantic, huge, massive fires. And now they're small fires. We can put them out very easily. We have 59 countries participating in the peace process in the Middle East. Many of them are not in the Middle East. They're near the Middle East, but not in the Middle East. And many said that if HAMAS doesn't do what they promised to do, and I think they probably will, but they were born with rifles in their hands, literally born on the very first day. They were handed a rifle, but they will have to lay down their arms, and if not, that will be their end.
This is not the speech of the President of the United States, not the role of the President of the United States. This is the speech and role of the President of the world, or the Chairman of the United Nations, the real United Nations organization. Well, it was created to transform wars, but no one thought through how to make it capable of transforming wars. It is capable of talking, making decisions, pretending, scheming, stealing. It is capable of redistributing. That is, it's an absolutely socialist, I would even say Marxist organization without power and rights. In the world of people, only those who have power and are ready to use it have rights. Otherwise, it's all talk and everyone knows it. Everyone knows it's just talk during the game. We've been balancing and pretending at justice and border inviolability since 1945, or maybe 1946. The number of armed conflicts. What is an armed conflict? No, the number of, wars. What is a war? It's an armed conflict with over 1,000 deaths per year. So there have been 252 such wars in the world from 45 to 25. And if you think there are fewer and fewer of them, you're mistaken. You might be surprised to learn what these wars actually mean. In, let's say, the 23rd and 24th years, there were 59 wars around the world. So the number is increasing, even though they are getting smaller. Of course, they can't be compared to the First or Second World Wars, but there are an incredible number of them now. And also keep in mind that 1,000 years ago, the weapons were swords and spears. And how many people can you kill with a sword or a spear? Maybe 10 or 12 people, but you'll get really tired and need a break. 200 years ago, there were already, cannons, carbines, and then rockets started flying. Now, there are poisonous gases, ballistic weapons, biological weapons, let's say warheads loaded with nuclear charges, lasers. The danger is growing that someone will get very upset, and in their frustration could wipe out half the planet's population. Just to get back at a girl who left for someone else, or for another girl, or for others. That is, the existence of rules, interstate conflicts, and the resolution of these conflicts. No one is doing anything about it at all. No one is stopping it. And the international community isn't even trying to get involved in resolving the sides. If even one large or even medium-sized country is involved, it means we live in a world of deception. The representatives sitting there know that no one is going to follow their organizations, their agreements, or their rules. Not at all. But they all pretend to be outraged when someone else, especially if they belong to another clique or another camp, breaks the rules. And they themselves aren't even going to follow them. They won't even pretend that they're going to follow them. Well, for example, here you go. Israel, yes, with a population of 7 million Jews, is surrounded by 300 million Arabs, and in the world we have, 7 or 8 billion people living like that. So every day the Arabs living around Israel shout that they want to cleanse the Arab Holy Land of filth. That's us, that's the Jews, and they won't stop until the last Jew is killed. If you think they're joking or just shouting, you're mistaken. They've proven that they're telling the truth, that what they say is exactly what they're going to do. When they slaughtered 1,200 Jews just recently in the area they captured, and there were 300 more, there were 1,500 in total, 1,200 were stabbed, burned, had their stomachs cut open. It's impossible to list everything they did. They took 300 people captive, torturing and killing them. Some were exchanged for whatever they wanted. So this is the United Nations. In the last 5 years, it has issued 30 resolutions condemning warring countries, and out of those, 69 resolutions were about Israel and condemned Israel. Naturally, even though everyone knew that Israel wasn't the one who attacked, but that Israel was attacked, nobody cared about that at all. Who cares about the truth there? The truth at the United Nations honestly doesn't matter at all. What matters at the United Nations are alliances. Someone who is part of an alliance based on some religious criteria votes for each other, for whatever one of them wants, and some vote based on their system of governance. We're a democracy, they're a dictatorship, and we group together and vote for each other, and some do it based on ethnicity. Turkey and Azerbaijan are together, for example, Africans, Europeans, and nobody, this whole thing they're feeding us doesn't matter at all. Nobody cares about justice. The United Nations is a struggle between groups that condemn or praise depending on their own or group interests. Then why should we play by their rules? If the rules, well, if they even exist, are rewritten depending on who is in front of you. Some have written rules, others do not. Let me give you another example, which I think I've already mentioned before, or something similar. Yes, 2 islands, a law in the archipelago. An archipelago is, so to speak, a collection of many islands united into one archipelago, and laws were established. The law says that the islands do not have the right to invade or conduct military operations on other islands. But from Island A to Island B, bandits come every night, rob, kill, rape, and by morning they escape back to their home. When chased, they're already back on their island. Year after year, Island B's leadership repeatedly asked the government for 1 or 2 years, making requests daily, so that they would do something about it. But in response, they just get the middle finger, whether it's the right hand or the left, it doesn't matter. What are they supposed to do? I mean, on Island B, everyone knows where the bandits live, and Island B decides that enough is enough. The next night, they go to Island A, burn down the bandits' houses, and shoot them in a gunfight. Naturally, a few women and children are killed in the crossfire. The next day, the whole archipelago angrily lashes out at Island B for violating the sovereignty of a neighboring independent island and imposes a blockade on them. Well, who's right, ladies and gentlemen? Well, it depends. If you're a bandit, then those guys are right. But if you're the victim, then these ones are right. And morality, the bandits were surprised. Oh, I've heard about that once, even twice. I've even heard about it twice. Island B broke the agreement, and the residents of Island B clearly understand this. Judging by the reaction of the entire archipelago, saving a drowning man is the work of the drowning man himself, and that the only way to stop the robberies and murders is to destroy the attackers and declare war on the whole world. And say, guys, this is what will happen to anyone who comes here to commit a crime. If anyone else tries, we won't respond equally, like 1 to 1. No, it'll be at least 10 to 1. There is one rule. When someone hits you, slaps you, or strikes your head, or hurts your child, you must respond immediately. 10 times harder and bloodier, at least 10 times, by the way. 100 times is even better. By the way, the Arabs, they set a price, and when Sergeant Gilad was kidnapped, In exchange, they offered the Israelis to release 1,006 Arab prisoners. In the end, they released 1,002, keeping 4 who were true bandits. But the Arabs set the price for one of yours, 1,006 Arabs, and forever established the price calculation for one kidnapped or killed Israeli, 1,006 killed Arabs. That's fair. No one's bothering you. You're the one interfering. I think that for one American, at least 100 of those who harmed us, and that's fair. That's also absolutely fair. I'm not calling for 1,006, after all. We are people with moral values. 100 is enough for us. By the way, they're also talking about another country that's among the likes of Venezuela, Cuba, and so on, Iran. With Iran, it will be exactly the same. American spy planes in the Iranian sky. The atmosphere in Iran is heating up if it can get any hotter. American reconnaissance planes are flying in the Iranian sky, monitoring the movements of troops and the country's leadership.
An American reconnaissance plane flew around Iran. Against the backdrop of rising tensions between this country, the United States of America, and Israel, it seems that strikes against the Iranian regime could begin as early as tonight. At any moment this weekend or in the coming days, as more and more military forces are rushing and gathering in this region.
The aircraft carrier is now in a combat position near Iran's coast. A number of Navy ships are positioned along the coast to intercept missiles flying towards Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, or Qatar, if they are launched from Iran, and of course toward Israel as well.
The United States is now laying the groundwork, so to speak, to start seizing Iranian oil tankers that are under sanctions.
In other words, what was happening in the waters near Venezuela is now starting to happen, well, on the way to Iran. Gentlemen, what do you think about Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela, and Iran? What do you think? The United States has the right, should, and is obliged to act. They are loyal allies of Russia and China, yet both are absent. Whatever they say, what is happening now is what, back in 2022, your humble servant, talked about in my video series. The video series was a response to Nostradamus. It is in the World Politics section on the Camerton Global website. I made 6 videos there, each about 30 to 40 minutes long. I talked about what will happen in the world over the next 17 years. I mean the upcoming 17 years from 2022. I explained at the very beginning of the first episode why exactly 17. All items are free. The link is below. Ladies and gentlemen, see for yourselves and share it with your friends. There will be a lot of interesting things, especially about why the United States of America cannot lose, simply because it can't, that's all. That's how it's happening. It's been 25 years now, and that's exactly what's going on.
Within about a week or so, the Middle East is flooded with American fighter jets, British fighter jets, American refueling planes, cargo planes, and air defense systems. And all this is happening while President Trump is kind of keeping his cards close to his chest again, not wanting to reveal what's going on. What is his overall plan? What is his grand strategy? We don't know. We just don't know what the president will do. But you can't move so much military equipment, so many military assets into the region unless you have a firm intention to use them against the enemy. In this case, the enemy is Iran, which has just carried out a massacre of many of its own citizens. This is a disgusting situation and regime, which is now warned as the American military rushes to help. Well, part of this I'll show you on the screen. So what you see here is an American plane, a reconnaissance aircraft, which had its flight tracking radar and transponder turned on. And as you can see in this photo, it flew right up to the coast of Iran. This P-8 Poseidon flew from Bahrain to the Iranian coast, likely gathering intelligence on Iranian military sites. But there's an even more important part. This P-8 Poseidon has a very, very important feature. What is this feature? Electronic intelligence. This aircraft is capable of intercepting radio transmissions, cellular communications, and many other things that the government doesn't actually disclose. If you're communicating in the P8, you're under the P8 network, which can extend hundreds of miles inland. They'll absorb all that electronic intelligence and know everything you're doing. So when it's time to strike, they'll be ready for battle. Sorry, for decisive action. And now this is yet another sign that we're not joking, we're not playing games. The flight of an American reconnaissance plane over the Iranian coast is one of the clearest signs that military action is approaching.
I think right now the mullahs are being quietly told, guys, you have a few hours, maybe days, to get out and take your families with you. If you stay, well, that's it. You'll all die, every single one of you. That's a guarantee. That's what we can promise you, every single one. And those we don't get will be torn apart by the people. You know it's better to die under our bombs than to fall into the hands of the people who have become enraged because of you. This isn't a timid attempt like Bush or Nixon. This is an armada for the complete destruction of the Revolutionary Guard Corps, specifically the destruction of the Army with all their missiles and launchers. As I said before, the Army is not the Revolutionary Guard Corps. The number of internal troops is about the same as in the regular army, and the Revolutionary Guard Corps is better at fighting. But nevertheless, if we destroy almost all the bases of the Revolutionary Guard Corps, then the army, which I really hope is either fully or partially switched to the Shah's side. So after the bombings, the army, as I understand it again, if we are already ready to attack, it means there is already an agreement about this. It takes positions there, well, as Lenin said, the post office, telegraph, and telephone, and takes control of all the weapons in Iran. Well, the ones they have and the ones the Revolutionary Guard Corps has. And of course, they're waiting for Shah Reza Pahlavi Jr. to arrive on a white camel. So, a total United States withdrawal from agreements, conventions, and most importantly, pretense. We help our friends, we help them get rid of their enemies, Cuba, Venezuela, Iran, Nicaragua. Who's next in line? I'm sure they're all scratching different parts of their bodies right now, wondering who's next. What will descendants remember? They'll remember what happened, not how. And most importantly, that's what will happen with us. There won't be a prolonged war, there won't be a retreat like from Vietnam or Afghanistan. What Biden has arranged will be the full power and strength of a huge technological superpower to drive out enemies and restore friends to power. We won't pretend anymore, okay? We just don't want to pretend anymore or play their games, whether that's good or bad. I don't know what will come of it. Of course, we'll see everything. Maybe you always make plans, but in the end, it's the Lord who decides. Meanwhile, the world is undergoing a planetary scale transformation, and I think that's for the better. That's all for now. Goodbye until we meet again.